What if I told you that one of the most famous lawyers in America helped negotiate a deal that shielded not just his client, but unnamed co-conspirators from federal prosecution? And that years later, one of the victims would accuse that very lawyer of being one of those co-conspirators? He denied it, forcefully, publicly, for nearly a decade. And then, in 2024, his accuser said she may have made a mistake. But here's what the settlement didn't resolve. The questions buried in the documents stay till the end, because the paper trail raises questions that no press release can contain. I'm Mark Epstein, and this is the Epstein Files. Alan Morton Dershowitz, born September 1st, 1938, in Brooklyn, New York. Felix Frankfurter Professor of Law Emeritus at Harvard Law School, a position he held for decades. One of the most recognized legal minds in the United States. Over his career, he represented clients including Klaus von Bülow and O.J. Simpson, author of dozens of books, a fixture on television news, a man whose legal reputation was, for much of his life, unassailable. Source: Public Biographical Records, Harvard Law School Faculty Records. He was also a member of Jeffrey Epstein's legal defense team during the most consequential negotiation in the entire Epstein case. Source: Court Filings, Case 08-80736, CIV, SD FLA DOJ OPR Report. And that intersection between advocate and accused, between legal counsel and alleged associate, is the subject of this file. No jury has ever rendered a verdict on the specific allegations we will discuss. This is not a determination of guilt or innocence, but it is a story told through court filings, depositions, flight manifests, and a non-prosecution agreement whose language raises questions that remain unanswered to this day. But here's where it gets disturbing. To understand Dershowitz's role, you have to go back to 2005. That year, the Palm Beach Police Department launched an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein after a parent reported that her 14-year-old stepdaughter had been brought to Epstein's residence at 358 El Brillo Way, Palm Beach, Florida. Source: Palm Beach PD Investigation Records, Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice Part 1. That investigation, led by Police Chief Michael Reiter and Detective Joseph Reckery, ultimately identified dozens of potential victims. The department compiled a probable cause affidavit and sought federal involvement after concerns about the local prosecution. Source: PACER, Case 08-80736, CIV, Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, Part 1. When the matter reached the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, then headed by United States Attorney Alexander Acosta, Jeffrey Epstein assembled one of the most formidable defense teams money could buy. That team included Gerald Lefcourt, a prominent New York criminal defense attorney, Jay Lefkowitz, a former White House official and partner at Kirkland and Ellis, Kenneth Starr, the former independent counsel famous for the Clinton investigation, and Alan Dershowitz. Source: PACER, Case 08-80736, CIV. DOJ Office of Professional Responsibility Report, Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, Part 2. This legal team engaged in negotiations with the U.S. Attorney's Office that would produce the Non-Prosecution Agreement, the NPA, finalized in 2007 and executed in 2008. Source: NPA document, PACER, Case 08-80736, CIVI. Under the NPA, Epstein pleaded guilty to 2 Florida state charges, 1 count of solicitation of prostitution and 1 count of solicitation of a minor, in exchange for the federal government agreeing not to pursue federal sex trafficking charges. Epstein would serve 18 months in the Palm Beach County Stockade, register as a sex offender, and provide restitution to identified victims. Source: NPA document, Florida State Court Records, Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, Part 2. But here is the critical provision. The NPA did not only protect Jeffrey Epstein, It contained language extending federal immunity to what court filings and subsequent reporting have described as any potential co-conspirators of Epstein. Source: NPA document as referenced in case 08-80736 CIV filings and DOJ OPR report. Any potential co-conspirators, no names listed, no identities specified. A blanket of federal immunity spread over individuals who were never publicly identified, and the victims were never notified. On February 21, 2019, Senior United States District Judge Kenneth A. Mara in the Southern District of Florida ruled in case 08-80736 CIV that federal prosecutors had violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act by failing to inform victims about the NPA before it was finalized. Source: PACER. Case 08-80736 CIV. Judge Mara ruling, February 21, 2019. Alan Dershowitz helped negotiate that agreement. He has acknowledged this publicly. What happened next would turn a legal story into a legal war. Now, if you're still here, it means you can handle the truth. So let me show you what they didn't want you to see. Late December 2014, attorneys Paul G. Castle and Bradley J. Edwards filed a joinder motion seeking to add additional victims to the case. Source: PACER. Case 808-80736 CIV. Joinder motion filings, late December 2014. That filing included sworn allegations from Virginia Roberts Giuffre, one of the most prominent accusers in the entire Epstein case. A woman who had already identified herself publicly as an Epstein victim. And in that filing, Giuffre alleged that she had been directed by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to have sexual contact with Alan Dershowitz on multiple occasions while she was underage. Source: CVRA Joinder Motion, Case 08-80736 CIV, SD FLA. Alan Dershowitz responded immediately and forcefully. He categorically denied every allegation. He called the claims fabricated. He publicly challenged Giuffre's account and demanded the allegations be stricken from the court record. The allegations regarding Dershowitz and other named individuals became the subject of significant legal motions in the CVRA case. The court addressed the question of whether these specific allegations were relevant to the CVRA motion itself, and the references were ultimately removed from the operative filing. Though this procedural outcome did not constitute a ruling on the truth or falsity of the allegations. Source: Case 08-80736 CIV docket, contemporaneous legal reporting. But the allegations migrated to other courtrooms. In 2015, Virginia Giuffre filed a defamation lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, case number 15 CV 07433, in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. Source: PACER. Case 15 CV 07433 SDNY. That case generated depositions, exhibits, and sworn testimony that became central to the broader Epstein record, including testimony detailing Giuffre's allegations. Meanwhile, flight logs from Jeffrey Epstein's aircraft, records subpoenaed and entered into evidence in multiple proceedings, include Alan Dershowitz's name on manifests for trips aboard Epstein's private planes. Source: flight logs entered as evidence in Case 15 CV 07433, reported by multiple outlets. Dershowitz has acknowledged flying on Epstein's aircraft. He has stated he traveled for professional and social reasons, that his wife accompanied him on trips, and that no improper conduct ever occurred. Source: Dershowitz's public statements and media interviews. Dershowitz's contact information also appeared in what has become known as Jeffrey Epstein's Dahmstor's Black Book, a contact list leaked in 2009 and subsequently verified by law enforcement as belonging to Epstein. Source: Epstein Contact Book, verified by law enforcement, reported by multiple outlets. Appearing in a contact book is not in itself evidence of wrongdoing. Dershowitz was Epstein's lawyer, but the breadth of the documented social connection, flights, visits, legal representation is part of the evidentiary landscape. In 2019, the conflict escalated to direct litigation. Virginia Giuffre filed a defamation lawsuit against Alan Dershowitz in New York County Supreme Court, alleging that his public denials, in which he called her a liar, constituted defamation. Source: Giuffre vs. Dershowitz, NY County Supreme Court, filed 2019. Dershowitz countersued for defamation, asserting that Giuffre's allegations against him were false and had damaged his reputation. For 5 years, these parallel cases wound through the courts. Motions, depositions, public statements on cable news and in newspaper columns. It was one of the most visible and contentious legal battles in the entire Epstein saga.